Now, Sarah, I don't have many people on the show with a recruitment background, so it's imperative that I get some quick fire questions about recruitment from you.
Yeah.
So whether it's your recruitment hat or your channel director hat now, when interviewing, how does a candidate impress Sarah?
Good eye contact. I think one of the worst things is when people won't look at you.
Okay.
Now, I know that's nervousness for some people, but I do try and engage them.
You're going to stare down?
Try not to, but you want them to look at you, and you just think if they're looking all around the place, or a lot of interviews are done on Zoom lately, aren't they? So if people come on to an interview and don't put their camera on, I have a problem with that.
Have you ever had that? So
yeah.
Someone's been on an interview and haven't put the camera on?
Yeah.
That is a complete waste of time.
Yeah, and I'd say, can you put your camera on? And you shouldn't really need to ask these days, should you? So that's a bit of a worry.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Having an interview without your camera.
Because you want to see body language. How relaxed are they? You know, some people get very nervous and might have all their questions written down. That's okay. That's okay. And I have actually had scenarios last year where I was interviewing someone who was so nervous and she kept almost hiccuping, and I just said, just turn your camera off. Turn your camera off, and she was fine. But that says something about them a little bit as well. It's an indication.
You had someone hiccuping and you told them to turn the camera off.
Yeah.
That brings me on. That might even actually be the answer. That brings me into my next question. What's the funniest thing that's happened to you, either as a candidate or as a hiring manager during an interview? That's pretty good.
I think that was actually probably the funniest one. Most of the time they've been pretty okay. My interviews have always been good. I actually like interviews.
Do you?
Yeah.
Why?
As funny as all the things I was saying to you earlier, where women are more self-deprecating, I actually like to talk about the opportunity and find out about the company. So I see it as an opportunity. It's always two-way. You know, this isn't just about me. I want to know about them. So I actually enjoy the interview process.
You were a very ambitious person when you were trying to get up the career ladder, and there'll be lots of people who want to follow your career. So what advice would you give to someone who's looking to progress up an organisation and needs to get those...
still in the company they're in, or just... Don't be frightened to go and have that conversation regularly through your annual appraisal year. I think one of the dangers, and I've learnt this over the years, is don't just wait for your annual appraisal at the end of the year. There should be regular check-ins. I'm trying to do that with my team, is that otherwise it's meaningless, isn't it? It's just a tick in the box to actually have that chance to really talk about you and how you're feeling. So I think I'd always encourage people that if something's on your mind and you're not feeling like your career's going somewhere, go and have a chat with your boss, but don't go with the problem. Go with the problem and some ideas. I think there's nothing worse as a manager you hate is that someone presents you with a problem and then sits back and waits for you to
Sort
fix
that,
it.
Sarah. Yeah.
So I think you've got to own your career. I do believe, and I've said this a few times in these conversations, use your network. If you're not happy, then start to look outside and see what else is available to you. And I don't feel a career has to be prescriptive. Mine hasn't been. And I've loved the variation, and it's actually opened up lots of opportunities that I know are helping me now, because you've got so much more to offer. And use your friends. The one thing, if I could go back and tell myself, because we always love this question, if I could go back to my younger self, what would I tell myself? Find a mentor. And find a mentor, probably someone that's not in the company that you're working at. And I've got a fantastic lady, and I can name her if she doesn't mind. Her name's Melanie Lawn. I've only known her a few years, and she is the most ambitious individual I've ever met. Is
she in tech?
She is in tech, and she actually used to run her own recruitment company as well.
Oh, this sounds good.
I know, we attract each other. But she just sometimes gives me clarity about if I'm having a bad day and I think, what should I do? And she'll just say, well, what about that? And I think everyone needs a mentor. Yeah. I don't know if you have one.
I haven't really got a bespoke one, no. I think there's a couple of people in the industry that when the house is on fire, that I'll call.
Emergency, SOS.
That I'll call.
In Melanie,
but I think it's important.
You need it.
It's funny that's been a common theme from when I've actually asked people. They said, "How do you actually get the career ladder? Find a mentor."
Yeah.
And it could be someone in the company or outside the company actually, because otherwise you just can actually. you know, we spoke about it earlier. You can wait for people to recognise your talent or recognise your hard work. I don't think people necessarily get recognised for the
No.
If you're a good PR person or pushing yourself forward, you've got just as much chance of being recognised as someone that's actually doing a better job but not saying nothing. So you need to promote yourself.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we talked about this at lunchtime. I think for women, I'm not saying all women, we're not so good at that. Men are more bolshy, a bit more confident sometimes, and will just go, nothing stands in my way. Women are a little bit more considered, and I think sometimes we'll hesitate in pushing ourselves forward. But I think if you've got a mentor, if you've got someone out there who's in your industry, Mel's a great friend of mine anyway, but they can just give you that little bit of boost and give you another way of actually, how do you deal with senior management? How do you push yourself forward? So it's the best free advice you're ever going to get.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Now, Sarah, because you've got such a varied background, I want to ask you a couple of marketing questions, because most content I see online would appear to have been scheduled, or sometimes replies handled by chatbots or AI.
Yeah.
Is traditional marketing now at risk of being automated and coming out of existence?
God, I hope not. I hope not. No, and I think it ebbs and flows, doesn't it? You know, I remember, I'm trying to think which company I was at, when we all went back to trying to actually send things in the post to try and get people excited, and that people hadn't done that for years. I'm trying to think what it was now, but it was kind of revolution of let's go back to old school marketing, and it actually, people are like glad to get something. I think it's hard. You know, emails, you know what your email box is like. I know what mine's like. A lot of it goes into spam. I think that is hard, just doing constant digital email marketing. Talking with a partner last week, we all felt the same. People want to get back to doing live events. I think our challenge is budgets don't always lend itself to the volume that probably all vendors want to do. They're really expensive. Cost of everything's gone up. But I think that desire to get back into a mode of that networking, chance to actually sit in front of customers.
It's more fun, isn't it?
It's more fun, and that's what our industry is about.
Absolutely.
I think we're pushing still hard on things like the CISO roundtables, doing more intimate stuff. Our team in Italy last week were actually on an organised cybersecurity cruise. So
good.
for 3 or 4 days in the Mediterranean, and I thought how lovely, because captured market, you can't leave. Yeah. And I remember the days of doing those. You get on the boat at Southampton, it'd go around the Solent, and you know that was what we got. But I don't think so. I think marketing still needs to be varied, but you've got to be very selective and make your budget really work for you, because it's not infinite. I think we all feel that. We know what it's like when times are hard. Marketing budget is the first thing that gets hit.
Is there a better way for vendors to sort of help drive sales rather than the sort of traditional MDF? I hear a lot about MDF in the market, or just we'll hire a funded head, or we'll just put someone on site. Is there a better way of dealing with it?
Oh, I don't do funded heads. I haven't done those for years. Don't have the budgets for things like that. I actually had one at WebSense, a chap called Mike Wayfield, who's been at Checkpoint for years and years. I have fond memories of how well it worked. But you're always going to have a mix. MDF, I don't do co-op programs these days. The challenge with co-op programs is it's just tied to that partner. Budgets are the way to go. It's more flexible. You can dial it up, dial it down. I don't think there's any magic sauce. It's just doing a variety. I mean, the ROI is always the key factor, isn't it? Has it worked?
So again, it might not be Picus, but if you had to sort of pick one or two go-tos that have worked for you, and that could be, you know, C-suite, you know, round tables, it could be webinars, it could be the cruise, it could be whatever, it could be call-out days. What do you sort of go to? You think, you know what, this has worked, and regardless of the vendor, if we do these two little things, little snippets of information could do work.
I do like doing those events where you can bring an existing customer to be part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Panels, maybe those breakfast meetings. I think we've got to be mindful of people's time. So again, we were talking with a partner last week. We were saying, what about the breakfast meetings? And we went, oh God, you know what? Everyone loves a breakfast meeting, because you can come, have some breakfast, you can listen to someone, you can have a conversation, but then you can get back and get on with the day. So those kind of things I think are still effective. And I think people still want to do face-to-face. So I think anything that's face-to-face with a customer panel kind of thing, CISO roundtables, I still think they're valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the cybersecurity landscape? Now, what's changed since you've been in the industry? Because it seems to be more threats coming out. Everyone's talking about cyber now. Everyone's talking about ransomware attacks, all these different sort of stuff.
What's changed?
Yeah.
The number of vendors. I mean, the landscape's huge, isn't it? I mean, when I started at WebSense, it was like groundbreaking. Wow, you're going to actually filter what I look at on the internet? Really? I mean, that was just an amazing ride. And everyone that worked at WebSense, the people I still see now, we all go, wasn't that an amazing experience? Because it was just that everything was exploding. It is changing. I think the hard thing when you're looking for a job is like, which tech am I actually going to go for? I personally always look for something that is kind of up and coming. So WebSense was up and coming. Sophos was more established. And then I went into cloud native for a bit. That was very interesting. So working for Aqua Security and all that space. I mean, again, that is suddenly in the last 2-3 years, that's exploded with the number of vendors on the landscape now. Where we are now, breach and attack simulation, there's quite a few vendors, and you know what starts to happen. Everyone starts buying one or the other, and suddenly your competitor becomes a much bigger force because everyone's being bought out. So it's forever changing, but isn't that why we're in this industry?
Ever changing.
We love it. You know, what industry changes this quick with such interesting tech with great people in it? We're very lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. And my last question, Sarah, what do you feel is the biggest opportunity for Picus and the channel team that you've established in 2023? Where is it going to happen for you guys?
Where's it going to happen? Well, we've got a great opportunity in front of us. I think it's a really interesting space. You know, as I said to you earlier about the vendor-specific mitigation, we have a good opportunity to be able to help our partners make all the other tech that they've sold valuable, really valuable, and look at that whole renewal subscription thing continuing for that partner. So I think we can solve a ton of problems. We can help our partners be successful and continue to grow. I think sky's the limit. It really is with Picus, and I love the space. I love the people that we're working with. So just watch out. See what happens.
You've heard it here first, guys. Okay, thanks so much for your time, sir. You've been a great guest.